Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon on this Thursday afternoon, Thursday the 13th of August, 2020. Thank you for tuning in. I really welcome you to my show. Now, listen, there's a lot of these guys out there that do a lot of charting of the markets, and they do their Fibonacci patterns and their head and shoulders and all this kind of stuff, trying to figure out what the market's going to do. The best way to know what the market's actually going to do is to take a look at the fundamentals behind the economy in the world. What's actually happening in the world? It reflects on the market. And you can't always go by charts, because world situations, the environment of the world, and the condition that the world is in is going to determine what happens to the markets. Right now, what's really determining what's happening to the markets is the Federal Reserve and what they're doing. Federal Reserve is caught. They have to keep interest rates down, low. At the same time, they're dragging their heels right now, the United States government, on more stimulus measures. It was a $2.2 trillion worth of stimulus back in March. It's buoyed these markets up. You remember what was happening back then when the markets fell off from 29,000 all the way down to 18,000 points? Scared the heck out of them, Well, all of these things come together to affect what's happening with cryptocurrencies and the price of cryptocurrencies. And, I know that for the past number of months, you remember when cryptocurrency took that huge rise up to like $17,000 or whatever, and there's a lot of people talking, and it was all the talk around the water cooler about cryptocurrency and everything, and things have settled back down now, and people aren't paying so much attention to it. Well, it's a lot bigger now than it was then. It's expanded out its base. It's growing. It's been growing ever since it started back in 2009. It's still continuing to grow. What it's actually doing is it's setting up an alternative payment system or an alternative payment structure to the fiat currency payment structure that already is in existence. But, most people use the fiat currency payment system that's already in existence. And the vast majority of people don't actually use the cryptocurrency payment system. But the cryptocurrency payment system is fully capable of handling all the transactions that the fiat currency system now handles. It's just that because it's not really, at this point in time, it's not really needed that much, really. I mean, the fiat currency system is handling most all of the transactions. Most people use fiat for everything. And there are a few people that use cryptocurrencies. But it's more of a novelty than anything else to pay with cryptocurrency at this point in time. But, in the future, because there's mismanagement of the fiat monetary system is so pervasive, there's so much greed, there's so much cheating in the fiat currency monetary system. You want to talk about black markets and stuff and people buying, they use cash. Cash is the big thing that's used, more so than cryptocurrency. But my point is the cryptocurrency system is being built. The structure is actually being built. The infrastructure to handle the world's payments. And all of these different coins serve a different practical purpose in the structure of that payment system that's being put in place. It's ready to go. It's up and running, ready to go. Now we have a world situation where, like I said, the Federal Reserve now is trapped. They've been lollygagging around, talking about whether they should have $1.1 trillion in this next bailout of the economy, or whether it should be $3.5 trillion, And while they're talking, the people out there in America right now are sliding down a slippery slope toward foreclosures and bankruptcies and don't have their job and can't pay for their kids' anything, buy any food for their kids, and it goes on while these bureaucrats are chewing the fat. They're playing an awful dangerous game. Because studies have been done. And what they find is, in these studies, is that when people actually revolt and go into a popular uprising, or you can call it, there's a number of names for this. I mean, they don't like to use the word revolution, so they just call them protesters. But the flip side, when you're talking protesters, they say, okay, peaceful protesters. Okay? When you're talking peaceful protesters, that's like a coin that's heads. The flip side of that coin is tails. And the coin can flip over very quickly. And peaceful protesters, they can flip over into revolutionaries almost overnight. Why I say they're playing a very dangerous game right now is because millions and millions of people in the United States are facing these hardships. They did studies, and they found that the trigger that sets people off is when they start going hungry. Now, not many people in the United States yet have actually went hungry. We got millions of people on the verge of food insecurity, and the whole reason why they can't buy food is because they're running out of money. And, these bureaucrats are just chewing the fat on what they're going to give them. That clock's ticking. They're playing a dangerous game. It's a very dangerous game indeed, because once a revolution starts, or a popular uprising and stuff, I remember years ago, when I was younger, I remember how quick Romania fell. Just all of a sudden, boom, it's in the news, and everybody is in the streets. And what happened to the Romanian leader? Well, I think his name was Ceausescu. He didn't last long. I'm going to tell you, the flip side of that coin from peaceful protest, when it spins out of control, it can really, it's a dangerous game the political structure is actually playing. And if we have, America's a special country. I lived there for I guess 26 years or something like that. 23 years, I can't remember, 23 or 26. I lived there for a long time. I grew up in America. I grew up in the southeastern part of the United States of America. And I know what America's like. I know what the country's like because I lived there for a long time. And I love the country. It's a great country. It's a wonderful country. In fact, the years that I lived there, I would say it was it was wonderful place. It was like, I was just a sick little boy. I mean, when I moved to America, I was like 5 years old, and that winter I had everything going. I had the mumps, whoop and cough, about 3 flus, chicken pox, on and on it went. I kept getting sicker and sicker, and I was in school, and I caught everything in 1 year. And I was such a sick little lad, I'm going to tell you, skinny and white and pale, and I couldn't go to the bathroom, and my mother was worried that I was going to die. I couldn't get my lungs free to breathe. I was just coughing constantly and just losing weight and just going downhill. It took me down to Florida, Started feeding me oranges, got me in the sun, perked right up in no time. Started to become healthy again. And, I always have those memories of the United States, and that's how I remember the United States as being as it was back in around 1969. The land of the free and the home of the brave. That's what it was. America was the greatest country on earth. These politicians have been slowly but surely turning America into their vision of America. Not the people's vision of America. The people's vision of America is the land that I knew back when I was back in 1969. Even in the 80s. It was a great place, a wonderful place. A place where if the person was going to get arrested, where they would get read their rights. What do they call that? Habeas corpus or something like that? Anyway, listen. That's very important, that people have rights. The Constitution is very important. And it's upheld. Because this is what holds this is the fabric of civilization itself, what keeps us from being animals. But at any rate, we got problems in America. America, right now, well, you can see it being manifested. Cities that are, the fires are just going out now in a number of cities. You know, but the cause, the feeling out there is still there. And you get millions of Americans starving, and that's going to get a lot worse. But how does this all affect Bitcoin? Well, you know, like I said, the Fed is in a trap. Either they start supporting the people of America by producing a lot of money and giving it to the people, because people haven't got jobs, and they're not going to be able to get them jobs. They've got this country in such a mess. Here in Canada, too. That there's no way out except some sort of a massive crisis. Either you can have a currency crisis, or you can have a crisis of civil unrest of one sort or another. Well, the currency crisis can probably be pushed off into the future a little ways. But at what cost? The cost of the currency. But that means you're going to keep your people in your country fed, at least, while you wait for the currency to disintegrate. It's basically the situation we're in, and there's no way out. Perhaps there is a way out. Cryptocurrency. Because they can't cheat. They can't cheat. This is what's got us in this mess, is all of these fat cats that can cheat the system and swindle away as much money as they can before their big fat retirement, and they go out and spend their days out near the swimming pool and on the golf course. Okay? But they can't cheat. They can't cheat the system in a cryptocurrency system, because the computer keeps them straight. There is no accountant. So you can't have a second set of books. I'm sorry. But, you know, cryptocurrencies, if they're adopted worldwide on a massive scale, say goodbye to accountants. But what do accountants do anyway except keep two set of books? You know, they cheat the system left and right. They've been able to cheat the system. They won't be able to cheat the cryptocurrency system any longer. With smart contracts, and it goes on, but the cryptocurrency system keeps them fair. So keeping them fair creates a sort of fairness for the average Joe as well. If he wants to work hard and save his money is not going to be taxed through a hidden tax called inflation, which is what they're doing with the fiat monetary system. And ultimately, if you look at the history of cryptocurrencies, it's been a constant march upwards in price. If you invest in Bitcoin, yes, it might have its downs. It's volatile. It's very volatile, meaning it can drop. The price can drop. But overall, look at it. Go back over a period of years and look at what its track record is. It's almost $12,000 right now. And there was a time you wanted to invest in it for $60 a coin. You could have. You could have invested in it at $500 a coin. You could have invested in it at $2,700 or $3,700 a coin. Now you can still invest in it at $12,000. Well, I'll be talking a few years from now, and you know this is true. And I'll be saying, well, you can invest it at 100,000, and then later 1,000,000, and then it just keeps going. It's absorbing. What it's doing is it's slowly people are starting to get it. They're starting to say, hey, if I had only put my savings in cryptocurrency instead of leaving it in the bank in dollars, right now we're looking at, see, the Fed right now, they know they're in this situation. So now they're changing their whole idea about a 2% inflation rate. See, they were saying, okay, we have a 2% inflation target. Now they're saying it's okay to go above 2%. Now it's okay. Before it was up to 2%. We'll start to slow down. We'll start to tighten when we start to approach 2% with the 2% inflation target. Now they're saying, hey, you know what? We'll go right on by that 2% inflation target. We'll start to tighten when it goes at some point higher than 2%. 3%, 4%, 5%, who knows? Who cares? They're letting the horse out of the barn. And how long do you guys think it really is before, people watch my channel, and how long do you think it is before a lot of people start to really get it? They start to understand, hey, my savings that are in the bank have a hidden tax. It's called inflation. And at the very minimum, I'm going to lose at least 2% a year. But I know inflation's a lot higher than that. It's probably right now running close to 10%. That means they're going to chisel 10% of my money away every year I hold it in the bank. Meanwhile, you take a look at the track record of cryptocurrency. How long do you think that everybody out there is going to start to understand this? And then it's going to start to go up a lot faster because they're all going to start to hop on board. And it's the same deal with gold and silver. Exactly the same deal. If you take a look at the track record of gold, it's got a better performance record than any place else you could have put your money over the last few years. There's no place better than if you had it in gold. No place safer. How long do you think before the people start to actually get it and really understand it on a massive scale that the place to have your money is gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies? And then what happens? Then what happens is this thing could go faster and faster and faster, and we could be looking at the demise of fiat currencies. Once everybody starts to realize this and make a panic run for the door. This whole thing, it's taken a long time. This whole process from 1914 till now, it's taken a long time. It's been a long time coming. But it is an exponential. And what that means is, it means the last little bit of an exponential goes really fast. The first part is a long wait. They talked about how if you had a magical drop of water and you dropped it into a football stadium, and the water doubled every 20 or 30 seconds, the first drop would become 2 drops. And so you'd be up there in the bleachers with a pair of binoculars looking down at that 1 drop, doubling to 2 drops and then 4 drops. And you'd be sitting up there waiting a long time. But it's like an hour you'd be sitting up there waiting while these drops kept doubling and doubling and doubling. The last 5 minutes is when the real action happens. That's when the drops are still down on the stadium floor. You still have to use your binoculars to see them in the last 5 minutes, but they flood up and they drown you in the last 5 minutes. That's exponential growth. And this is what this whole Ponzi scheme, this fiat money Ponzi scheme is all about. It's on an exponential, and we're in the final stage now. Now is when you really get to see the effect. And the effect is not pretty by any means, but it's going to create a wealth transfer. I can't tell you the exact moment, the exact day, the exact hour when everybody's going to start to realize, but I say we're very close when you see the movement of gold and silver going the way it's going right now. We're getting very, very close, guys. And you know what? To a popular consensus of everybody out there starting to talk about alternatives to the dollar. It's coming. We're on the verge of it. This next impulse of money, which has to come in order to keep the people from starving, might just send us over the edge. They can't make up their mind right now. The Republicans are saying 1.1 trillion, and the Democrats are saying 3.5 trillion, and now they're trying to come to some sort of a compromise between the two, which would probably be about 2.2 trillion, about the same as they had back in March. But they will try to hold the system together at some point if they don't get a revolution before that happens, because a revolution can come from nowhere. Just take a look at France. What sparked a revolution in France with the yellow vest thing? They just had these vests in their cars, in the backseat of their car, and they named the whole revolution after the vests that they had to carry in their cars. It didn't make any real sense. None of it, actually. Look, our whole society doesn't make any sense. Do you know how it all starts? Somebody comes over in a ship, walks across the land, which doesn't belong to anybody, plants a flag in the ground, and says that we hereby claim this land, and then they come in and they start building things on it. And one man, he might walk into a pasture, and he looks at a field over there, and he looks at a brook over there, and he says, I'll name this Brookfield. You come back 100 years later, and there's the big city of Brookfield with 100,000 people living in it, with Brookfield mugs, Brookfield posters, Brookfield this, Brookfield that, all come from the first guy that came in and said, I'll name it Brookfield because there's a brook and a field there. This is how our whole society is put together, haphazardly. So things can spring from nothing and become something huge. A name can be born from nowhere. It's not here today. Tomorrow it's here, and everybody's bowing down to that new name. And this is how things can spring from nowhere really fast if the conditions are right. And they've done, like I say, they've done studies. Hunger is the driving force behind this. If a country can keep its citizens from going hungry, they can manage them. But once they let them go hungry, then all bets are off. And in modern society like we have today, there's several things that they have to keep going in order to keep the establishment in place and keep the establishment from losing power. Because once the establishment loses power, well, it's the same thing as if a person were to land in a foreign country someplace and they didn't even speak the language, and they went into a whole bunch of tribal people were there. Say there was 1,000 tribal people, and you were the first explorer there, and you walked into the middle of all these tribal people, and you're dressed different than them, you speak a different language than them, and everything is different about you. They're going to do one of two things to you, the tribal people, because there's thousands of them and there's only one of you, and you're standing there. They're either going to bow down and worship you as God, or they're going to have you for dinner. And this is the same way with the political structure. The people outnumber them 1,000 to 1. And so they're gonna either treat them as gods, or the opposite of that. And the changes can happen suddenly. Take a look at France during the first revolution they had, not the yellow vest thing, but what happened there hundreds of years ago. With Marie Antoinette and all these. The French Revolution, they call it, the French Revolution. Look what happened. Look how quick it can happen. Anyway, enough talk about that. Thank you guys for listening to the show. All this can affect Bitcoin in a very positive way because Bitcoin is a deflationary currency. It's deflating, and that means it's gaining value daily. Over the long term, it's gaining. Okay, it might have these points where it goes down some because it's volatile, but take a look at the overall track record, and what do you see? Do you really believe that that's going to continue, or that that's going to stop? The same thing with gold and silver. Where do you want your money? Thank you for listening, guys, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.